Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. I'm Erin, I'm resident webinar host here at Softree. Today we're going to be talking a lot about culverts. This includes minor culverts as well as major culverts, which are often also fish passages. So today's agenda, putting kind of a bit of a plan on the page, we are going to be talking about those two different types of culverts. They both have very different workflows for how you would add them to your project. Minor culverts, of course, as shown here in the picture, a lot simpler design, a lot simpler structures, and we are able to add these quite easily to a specific station in the location module using the Culvert Editor panel. These are included in your corridor reporting, your data tables, your volumes. And then on the flip side, we also have major culverts, and these are typically done as their own design project. They're definitely more complicated designs, more complicated structures, often include fish passage as shown here in the image. And in this case, we're going to be calculating the quantities of earthworks required for the project, as well as creating very specific construction documentation in order to go and build it. So that's kind of our plan on the page. Following these two sort of segments of the webinar, we'll move into a little bit of Q&A, and then we're also going to do some bonus content, assuming we've got some time. So we're going to be taking a look at what's coming down the pipe in terms of being able to design culverts a little bit easier, especially those minor culverts, by leveraging hydrology inside of the location module. So this is a version 12 feature. We're going to sneak preview it here at the end of the webinar following the Q&A, so make sure to hang out with us for the full thing. As you can see here in the screenshot, as a version 12, you're going to be able to see the drainage area for those minor culverts in your data table, including that so you can leverage that for their sizing calculations and whatnot in the future. And then we also have the ability to understand the impact that our road and our culverts are going to have to the streams and flow paths as we design. So some pretty exciting stuff coming in 12, again, happening after the Q&A portion of today's webinar. Per usual, bit of housekeeping as we get started. You're all muted. Please ask questions and engage with us throughout the presentation. We're happy to answer those questions in that Q&A section of the webinar. So to get started, I'm going to be passing it over to Matt in a moment here, and we're going to be talking about minor culverts. As I mentioned, minor culverts are added to our design using the Culvert Editor panel. There's options in that panel to control their structure type, whether it's say a box or an arch, as well as their type of culvert. So whether it's a natural stream, etc. You can add them specifically at one station, or you can add them at preset intervals. So a really simplified approach to culverts. And with that, we're going to move to our first in-software demonstration. And I'm going to pass the screen here over to Matt. And he's going to take us into a design. Add some minor culverts.
Alrighty. So not starting from scratch on this one, but more just giving an introduction to kind of the culvert panel and how we can use that to add pipes into our road design. So with this, I have a road. The geometry is largely already figured out. But if I decide I want to put in a pipe, maybe right here, I can just select along my alignment where I'd like that, and I can come over the culvert panel. I can click add. It asks me which station I'd like to add it in, so it's defaulting to my current station, but if I wanted to move that a little bit, either way, I totally could. We can drop that in and we see that, well, our pipe is set. And a couple things that we have going on here is, one, I've got my gradient set to be semi-automatic, so I have that in my defaults set to be 5%. So if we want to change something from our defaults, we just have to type in whatever we'd like and we'll bump that up to 2%. Now, another thing that we can see here is that my length is being auto set from the catchment point. So my vertical position of this culvert is set relative to the catch point. And my length is being set from wherever it daylights on the inside to wherever it daylights on the outside. So here it's going out further than what I probably would like. Now we've got other controls that I'm going to play with before I get to messing around with that. And well, here, one of the parameters that I have is that my ditch is being overridden on the inside. So I can click the properties panel and we see my ditch depth is being set at 0.5 meter, and maybe I only want that at 0.75, and we've bumped it up. So we're getting into the realm of what we'd like for our culvert length. We can see it in the 3D view, we can see it in our section view, and we can see it in our profile view here as well. Now, if I decided that maybe I want to do something like change the skew, we can type in whatever angle we'd like there. And I was going to either get it right or get it wrong. And of course, in this case, I got it wrong. So let's go the other way with it. And we can see everything is updating. And here it's going out just a little further than I'd like. So I'm going to turn auto off, and I'm going to manually set this. I'm going to see if we can get it set at 6.5. So we got 6.5. Maybe we can go a little lower. Go 5.5 both sides. We'll hit apply, and away we go. Now, as we're working with this and we're adding in culverts, we probably are going to want to keep track of the culverts that we're adding in. So here I've already got a data table showing my earthworks quantities. But I can create a new data table, and I can set this up to show my culvert information. I'll come in here. I still want to see my road station, so we'll set that. Now, the type of points that I'd like to see, I'm really only interested in anywhere that I've added a culvert. So we'll scroll down here. We see that there's a class of report points that we want to use to drive our data table. We've got that, and then we'll come in here and I'm going to, add in the parameters that I'd like to see. So I want to see my culvert diameter, culvert length, and that's it for now. So there, I can see at station 420, I've added in a 600 mil culvert that's 11 meters long. And we'll just drag this over here. And these data tables, you don't have to set them up every time. If you wanted a data table to show that information all the time, you could just save it into your screen layout. Now, as I kind of work along with this, I may find other spots where I'd like to add in my pipes. Now, with this, I personally like to work with an exaggerated scale in my profile view, so I can see my horizontal scale here is 1 to 2,000. My vertical scale is 1 to 200. And I can zoom in and I can see, that's my center line here. I've got my ground line being the black line underneath center line, and then I have my slope stakes showing up here. So that's nice to see what's going on. But if I wanted to maybe see my ditch depth as well, we could come in here and we could say, I want to see my ditch point codes. I'll go ditch inside on both sides, and we'll make that a blue line. It's kind of easy to see where the water's flowing off the edge. It's either going where there's a ditch or it's going on the slope stakes. So here would be another spot that I'd probably want to add a culvert. We'll go to that particular location. We'll click add, we can click OK, and there we are. We have our culvert, and this data table's automatically updating as we add that in. And again, we can see what we're looking at, and if in your design you're not able to see the culverts being displayed in the 3D view, we can right-click 3D options. In the view list, if we click current design features, and we click the little plus, we have the option whether the culverts are visible or not. And then kind of totally optional, but if you want to be able to see through your road prism here, you can also change the alpha channel of that particular surface. There we can see where that's extending through. So the culvert editor is pretty easy to work with. I'm going to add another pipe up here. We can click add, we can click OK. And well, if we want to change something, we can go into properties. I mentioned we can change our ditch overrides to add sumps and widenings at the culvert inlet location. We can also change our structure type, change the diameter in here, etc. And then for all of these things, actually I should go back to that last one where we had a lot of fill to play with. We could save our default if we like the configuration and we want to use that again and again. So if we're working with a design where our minimum culvert size is 400 and 600, well, we change that and hit save. So the next time we add a pipe, it's a 400 going in there to start. And then the other variable that I didn't play with here is if I wanted to perch my culvert in the fill, we could change the vertical position and apply that. So we can move it around vertically in what we're dealing with. Now, the cross drains, minor culverts, even the major culverts, they go hand in hand with the hydrology tools. So I'm going to run those as I set up the next project. But something that is changing as we go from version 11, which is our current version, to version 12. If we wanted to have our design in place with all our culverts added in, we could add those culverts in location, and we could save out our road design as a terrain file. And then we could, I'm not going to do each and every step just for the sake of time here, but if we saved out that road design as a terrain file, we'd get our road surface. And if we included our culverts, we'd get the culverts included in that export as well. And then we could go into our topo. We could click merge. We could browse to that road design terrain. So that the designed surface, we could merge that in. We could remodel our tin, and we could get something that looks like this. And so if we did that, we could run our hydrology tools, but we could calculate our drainage areas to all those culverts by going up here. We'll click hydrology. I want to run the drainage area calcs. I want to run those calcs to specific features. And so there's my culvert features. And we'll hit OK. And we'll let it think. And here we've got all the drainage areas calculated for those various pipes. And if we want to see, okay, this culvert here, we've got our drainage area of 3.6 hectares. We've also got the most hydraulically remote point and the length of that. So you can use that as an input as we're actually setting the diameter of our pipes. But yeah, that is getting even more dynamic and easy to use in version 12, which, as Aaron said, we'll preview. And of course, you don't have to do it just with the road merged in if you don't need it, in which case you could run the hydrology tools right on this. But I'll run the hydrology tools on a blank terrain here in a moment when we switch over to our major culvert workflow. So with that, I'll pass it back to Aaron.
Excellent. So we're now going to move in and take a look at the more complicated side of culverts. And this is major culverts. And here we are going to be handling them sort of one culvert at a time. We're going to be modeling and calculating volumes for the culvert excavation and the placement. We're going to be looking at the excavation extents for that pipe. And really, by doing it one at a time, in particular when we're dealing with something as sensitive as fish passage, it's really important to be able to better consider those stream profiles, the crossing skew, and just the general placement, which brings me to my kind of quick public service announcement, which is major culverts, fish passage considerations, super important. We actually put on a webinar series a couple of years back in partnership with Jeremy Araki from Onsite. Went through a ton of content when it comes to designing culverts and those very important considerations. And if you haven't seen it, or if you need a refresher, I do happen to have a little QR code here. Add it to your watch list. Yeah, major culverts, fish passage, very, very important part of reducing the environmental impact of roads, making sure we're being appropriate for the wildlife and their habitats. So scan the code, watch it later, awesome content. And you can, of course, skip a whole bunch of it if you're just looking for the culvert stuff. It'll be in the description of the video. You can jump to the link. So with that, let's talk about the workflow for major culverts, because unlike minor, they are a little bit more complicated. So we're not using the culvert editor panel with a quick click. We're doing a few more steps. So major culverts, the workflow starts off in the terrain module where we're going to model our topo. We're then going to create a stream feature. We'll show you how to do that. And from there, we head over to the location module, set up some templates, design our channel excavation using that stream feature. We have a function inside of location to allow you to merge that surface into the topo, then allowing us to design the road alignment on top of it and create the construction documentation. So major culverts, of course, that's a lot more steps than just clicking a station and pressing add and adjusting a couple variables. So I'm going to pass it back to Matt, who's hopefully going to go through it nice and slow for you all, and we'll move into that demonstration before the Q&A. So Matt, it's coming back to you.
All right, and let's share my screen. All right, and so we're gonna start this one from square one. So that previous minor culvert example, we just jumped into a design that was largely set up. And part of that is if we set up both projects in the workflow, one, it'll take longer than it needs to, but two, it's going to be repetitive. So here we'll start right from square one and talk through the process. So as per usual in our software, we're going to start by modeling an original ground. So I'm going to click insert, and I am going to go to my folder here, and I've got a DTM for this project as my original ground surface. So I'm going to bring that in. We'll hit OK. Now I'm going to, it's a DTM, but the raster in our software, we're going to work with a tin regardless of the format. So if it was a LAS file, it would be very similar. If it was conventional survey data, we'd automate that process so we didn't have to connect all the dots. But yeah, I'm going to take the raster points, so 4.5 million of them, and I am going to calculate my tin, and I'm also going to calculate my contours here at the same time. And the surface is already created. The contours take a little longer here as it runs through and calculates those. And voila, we've got a surface, and if we'd like, we can look at it in the 3D view. Now, a little extra context if we'd like. I'm going to bring in a ortho image. So I'm going to grab that for my project extents here. I'll hit save. And let's save this in the same working folder that we're going to use for everything else here. So this is totally an optional step, but it is nice to see what we're dealing with beyond just the geometry of the site. And this is our site that we're interested in working with. So currently there's an undersized round pipe in there with a head wall, and we're going to switch that out and put in a box culvert. Now for this, of course, we could trace in the stream through that particular location if we wanted to. But I'm going to save some tracing, and we're going to calculate where the streams likely are in this project. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to set my minimum stream drainage area to calculate the flow vectors. And right off the bat, we have, well, our stream comes down and it doesn't cross through the road prism. So that's not a big deal. The hydrology tools that we have are based off of a surface. So it's not automatically going through your ground surface unless you tell it to. And here I'm going to tell it to. So I'm going to hit, well, and actually I should come over here. I'm going to click new feature. I'm going to add in a feature that I've called Culvert, but the big thing is that I'm going to call this a hydro enforcement feature. And actually I will do that, and we'll come in here and we're going to say, well, that goes from there to there. Just looking a little ahead, I can see that there's another impediment in this channel. So I'm throwing both those in. Those hydro enforcement features are drawn with the direction to them. So I've started upstream and moved them downstream. And now when I recalculate my stream features, we can see it's not showing a bunch of bonding. Instead, we've got it doing what we'd like it to do, and that is going through our surface. So that's going to make our lives a little easier later on. And if we wanted to as well, we could calculate our drainage area to this particular point. So I'm going to just run that. We'll see how big of an area that we're working with. So 102 hectares. Now I'm going to delete that rather than leave it, but that works for me. So I'm going to hit file, I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to save this as topo. And we are going to go over into the location module. And so the big kind of thing that's different about these major culverts versus our minor culverts is that we're actually going to deal with them as two separate alignments. And I'm going to have some stream regrading in this particular project. So I'm going to have my stream channel as one alignment. I'm going to set up a cross-section template that includes my structure as that. And then I'm going to put the road backfilled on top of it. So opening a new location, clicking browse. I'm going to find my topo surface. We'll hit OK. And here, I'm going to just use my initial alignment as that stream 5, the stream feature that I had selected. If we didn't have it selected when we hit save, we could navigate to the stream we wanted to use, or we could add it in after. But I'll use stream 5 to start here, and we'll click done. And now that streamline that we have created, it's very, very dense to start, so it's taking a little longer to calculate as we get going than it usually would. But we'll let this thing go, and yeah. All right. So, of course, we're in the location module now. We've got our plan view, cross-section view. Of course, in this case, we're not going to pave a road down the middle of our stream, but we'll change that later. We've got our profile view. We'll zoom out here. So our road is actually way down here. We've got some data tables and our 3D. And I took the time to download that ortho image, so I'm going to just throw that in the background here. And, well, I'm going to start to figure out my geometry. Now, some of this is kind of up to the designer to kind of do whatever they see fit. I'm going to just chop off a good chunk of that stream that we brought in. So, and I'm going to chop it off further down later, but yeah, we'll go right from the start of our road to this particular location, back, a few hundred meters. And then at the other end of things, well, that's probably plenty far, and we'll get rid of the rest of my, well, currently a road, but will be my channel. Now, with this, that's an awfully busy kind of ragged line. I'm going to smooth that out. So I'm going to use our polyline to alignment tool. So a tool that we commonly use to create a road alignment from a polyline. And yeah, of course, we're not creating a road alignment here, but it's easier to work with an alignment with a simpler geometry, and it'll give us a better profile as well. I'm going to hit cancel. It's simplified enough. So we can see we've got a much smoother line here. And for me, again, kind of a personal taste type thing, but I prefer to have my stream right at, my stream and where my road cross right at station 0. So I'm going to change my stream start station. So we've got, I'll start it at 0 here to begin. And all right, I'm going to go back -238.4. So this point is now 0. And we'll zoom out here by getting a better feel for what's going on. Now, for this, I'm really interested in what's happening 100 meters upstream and 100 meters downstream. So I'm going to use that as my cutoff for taking my long stream profile, so my long thaw away. And I know I've already done it, but I'm going to do it again where I'm going to, well, delete a chunk of my alignment. So I'm only really looking at what's pertinent for this design. And delete, we'll go from there to there. So just chunking that down. Now here, we can see the ground profile. I'm going to take the long profile. So with that, in my profile view, clicked added VIP, and I've added my profile to it. And just a note, a lot of crossing folks prefer to work with a non-exaggerated scale. So mine is exaggerated, but I can see my grade down here, and I'm only at an average gradient of 4%. Now with this, one thing that kind of stands out to me is below the existing crossing, our profile's kind of very close to what we'd like it, but above it we've got this wedge of material, and I suspect the existing crossing slowing things down, causing it to, well, drop bed load upstream. So I am going to regrade this, and I'm going to regrade it quite a ways back as part of my project, rather than just a simple drop a pipe in. We're going to do some channel realignment stuff here too. So with that, I think we're probably at a point where it makes sense to, well, really consider what we want to do here. So, and I'm going to start by messing around with my templates. I'm going to create a new template, and I'm going to go really simple for this one. I'm going to just say, well, we probably want to have a bottom width of 1.5 meters. And just to start, I'm going to assume that there is no armor or anything like that. So I've got a flat spot, which is going to be my channel bottom. I'm going to get rid of my ditches. I'm going to rename this. Of course, we don't need crown or anything here. And we could take that and we could apply that new template to our alignment. So we could see what we would be up against if we were just trenching that. But again, I'm going to probably want to armor the banks for this one, where we are excavating out at the bottom. So we'll set a different template to account for that. So we can go in here, and for my armoring, I would go onto the e-library. I would grab in a bunch of different template components, and I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this in, and I'd leave these guys, but well, I'm probably going to go with this guy here. So I would paste that template component in here. I've got this set up, so I've got my kind of back slope set up 1:1, top width 1, bottom width 3. So nice thicker armoring at the bottom. I've got it keyed in about 1 meter. And well, we could take this guy and we could hit copy, paste as new right, and away we go. So that could replace our previous trench. Now, as we get going through this portion, we probably want to have our structure accounted for as part of this alignment. So for that, I would go in here, copy, paste as new. Now, I don't need my buttress in this case, but I probably would want, well, my structure. And in this case, I'm going to do it as a box culvert. So I take this guy, I would paste that in, shift it up, and we could set our rise to be whatever we'd like. So I could put it at 1.8. I could put the span at whatever I'd like, so 2.4, and so on and so forth. So one key takeaway, and I'm probably boring people to tears setting up my templates, but it's just a kind of you've got a bunch of building blocks in your template components from the library, and you can use those to set them up however you like. And it's not do over and over again. And I'm going to cheat. So you don't have to do this over and over again. You can set up your templates once and then you can pull them in the future. So I've got a few templates that I'd like to use for this particular project. I've got my channel realignment. I've got my box culvert template already set up. And as we get to it, I've got my roadway set up with a armoring applied to that as well. So we'll hit OK. I'm going to assign channel realign 2 to everything. We'll hit OK here. So I see my armoring. If I want to look at what that looks like in my cross-section view, I've got that applied. Now here, I'm going to do something special, and that is just for the 3D view. I don't want to have this fixed width. I would rather my channel width kind of butt out the way the original does. And I'd also like to have my armored bank extend up higher than just where it's daylighting. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to create a reference feature. And so with that, I'm going to just do a quick recalc, but I'm going to set up one of those templates that I brought in so that my width is set based off of this position here. So this guy here, two things that are different between the two. This buttress is set to go up to a minimum slope, or sorry, a minimum height for my slope. And I'm going to set this link offset. So instead of having an offset of 1 meter, I'm going to tell it to use the position of that center line to define where that is. So there we are. We've got that extending out for us. Now, of course, here we're going to want to apply our structure. So my structure, I want it to run from, let's say, 10 meters to 10 meters in terms of stationing. Oh, minus 10. And there we are. So we can see we've got, well, our panel regrading, and we're doing it right from the start all the way down and out the other side. Now with this, I'm going to probably not regrade this whole thing. So with that, I'm going to add a empty template. So just a center line so I can still see my long profile. So, and here we'll just refresh that. So we've just got our armoring kind of through that pool. And then on the upstream side, I really don't care about redoing the whole thing. We'll just start our actual channel realignment at station 62. So same thing, going in here, minus 62.3, and we've got our bridge. So we've got, well, one alignment, I think, pretty well fleshed out. And well, if we want, we can see we've got our volumes being calculated. And I could set this up to show specific volumes if I'm interested in specific volumes. So my rock is going to be one that I'm interested in. I'm tracking that as surface 4. So I've got about 800 cubes of rock. I've got cut, 1,400 cubes of cut. So we're coming out with extra. Now, as we go to figure out our road, again, another alignment. I'm going to, well, first tell the software, well, if I were doing this just on the fly, I would merge my streamline first, but I'll do that after just so it's a little more apparent why I'm doing it. So I'm making a new alignment. This is going to be called road. I'm going to take this, kind of like the stream. I'm going to start further back than what I think I really need to be. We'll chop it down just to our project extents once we have a little better idea of what we're really up against here. So we'll take that. We'll drop this guy down here. We'll throw in our parabolic curve. We fit a little bigger curve in there, maybe smooth this out. And so this is my roadway. And if I click my cross section down here, I can see that I am showing me filling down right into the stream bottom, but it's actually not stopping where the culvert is. So if I'll go a little less here. If I want the software to know that that culvert, that box culvert exists, or the excavation from the box culvert exists, well, that's where this would have come in. So I've got my, well, in this case, 3 alignments. One's just a feature though. So my stream and my road. So my stream is called Streamline 5. I'm going to tell the software that I want Streamline 5, the final surface, that's kind of envelope, is getting merged into my topo. And there we are. So now we can see instead of filling down through that culvert, we've got our fill going onto it, and we've got the the trench going where we'd like the trench to be. Now, of course, with this, this is just a gravel road. So once again, I'm going to, actually, I'll just set a curve here. Once again, I'm going to change my template. Go with this guy here. So I've got my gravel road, but as we deal with our actual crossing here, we probably want to have some armor on either side of it. So I'm going to go from station 57, so 45 to 50. Actually, I'm going to add in an extra report point. Sure, we'll go 46 to 57. Signed by range. And there we are. We've got that. Now it's not showing armor on the other side, just showing armor where we need it. If we want to add in a few more report points to catch transitions here, we totally can do that. And well, there we are. We've got our backfill go down and add one more report point in here.
And Matt, while you're doing that, maybe a quick sharing of how you're adding the report points.
I am just right-clicking them where I'd like. So added a report point tool, and I am just clicking them in to add that in to kind of capture well, my transition to show the capture. Here I'm on my box culvert, and let's go a little bit further on this side. And we're going to just move that in so we've got the rock going around that on the inlet. So with that, once again, I've got my rock volume, only 40 cubes for the actual armoring of our four slope. I've got my cuts and fills here. I've got some surfacing material that I probably am interested in. And we can take this and we can take this over into multi-plot and detail it out. So I will, and I'm kind of looking at time. Once again, I've managed to go over. So I'm gonna cheat a bit here too. We can set up our documentation, and with that, we can, well, have different chapters that represent different things. So this is gonna be my stream chapter. I've got that, and I've got my subgrade excavation extents highlighted in blue. I've got my rock hatched the way I'd like. I've got my culvert showing up as being that black line there. We can, again, change this to reference the alignment that we're interested in. We can step through, we've got our cross sections being displayed, and we can have something else set up for our roadway. So pretty easy to and straightforward to run through that. And we can add in, of course, our labeling in the different views as we usually would. And yeah, it's, I guess from there, very similar to just detailing out a road design. So I think that's kind of the high points, and a few key takeaways, just because there is more clicking around for that than a simple example. But well, for major culverts, usually we're tackling the stream as its own alignment and applying a template to that to represent any kind of earthworks we're doing in the stream and to account for our structure itself. And that gives us the nice ability here too to get that long profile where we can make sure that we're matching up with the ground. I didn't cover it here, or I didn't talk about it in the first pass, but with your templates, you have flexibility to control what center line is. So of course, if we want to kind of help ensure fish passage, we probably aren't putting center line on the bottom of the outside of our structure. So here we've got it embedded a little bit. So I've got the box culvert with some backfill being shown in there. So that's my center line for this. But if you do want to change your connection point, you can do that, and you could have it offset even more if you like, rather than having to put a jog in your center line profile to show what's being regraded. So we've got our template set up. We do our stream geometry first, and then we merge that into our topo surface using the reference surface terrains. And yeah, and then we design our road on top of that. And the road design is very much the same as doing a independent road design. Just here we've used a different template as we're going through the crossing to show that rock armor being applied on the foreslope.
Perfect. So Matt, we definitely have a few here in the chat. The first of which is, do we assume a bottomless culvert? Lots of material movement on that gradient.
Yeah, so I didn't go with a bottomless culvert. I've got an embedded culvert, an embedded box culvert with a simulated stream in here. So that's my surface 9 and we'll turn that off. So I've got that material added in there with my 4% grade, and we're regrading it back to, well, help return it closer to the natural gradient before the previous structure was. And the pipe is a much larger structure than what was originally there. Yeah, now that being said, the templates, you can basically do whatever you'd like with them if it makes sense to, as long as it makes sense to model as cross-section geometry attached to a center line. Yeah, so in this case, I didn't go with the open bottom structure, but yeah, if you wanted to do like an arch or something like that, you can do that.
Matt, your next question, where can you change the location of the center point?
All right, so I assume the center point being what the alignment's attached to, or the cross-section template's attached to. So in here, and we can apply an offset. I'll do it on one side, so we can mess around with that if we wanted to have something that was offset further. Let's go back here. Now with this, and it'll depend a little bit on the component that you have set up, there's other levers you can pull, and channel backfill depth. So if I wanted to offset that but just have it show more fill on the bottom here, or less fill, we can mess around with that. So I've got that set. If we want to go deeper, we can go deeper. And for this, usually you'd want them to be symmetrical. So you could totally do it on the other side, just the same, or you could copy, paste as right to save having to put in the exact same numbers over and over again.
Awesome. And in the essence of time, those next couple questions we will tackle with you individually afterwards. Let's get into that bonus section, which I know a few of you are definitely hanging out to see, which is location hydrology tools. So this is that little bonus section. Matt, coming back to you again. And as Matt gets that open, I guess the question that's undoubtedly going to come in the chat, when's 12 coming? It's later this year. I think we're looking at sort of November, December-ish, but it is out in beta testing now. So if you're a customer on support, this is something you actually kind of get access to almost immediately. Yeah. And to do that, just reach out through the chat, or you can send us a note to betatest@softtree.com.
And just a sec here, I'm just opening up two files, one that is further along than the other. So no one wants to watch me click through over and over again to get to a place that they've already seen. So let's start with this guy here. So this guy here, we've got our culverts already added in, and well, we can jump to whichever one of these we'd like. And here you'll notice that I've got a data table that's set up that's still showing my culvert diameter and culvert length. But I've got a few extra parameters here. So drainage area, flow length, and slope. So rather than having to go back into terrain to calculate my hydrology, and the nice thing about doing it in location, or taking the location design back to terrain, is that it doesn't matter. They're going to be intercepting flow and redirecting things certain ways. And if you've got a road with switchbacks, well, those ditches are redirecting flow away from the road below, or concentrating it where you've got your cross drains. So it is nice to account for as much as you can with this stuff. So I want to calculate my drainage areas. I'll do it. And I'm going to just calculate it for all my culverts right from the get-go. And sure, I'll calculate my flow paths too for where the flow goes after it's gone through a pipe. So doing a quick recalculation. And this is actually going through and, well, stitching that road surface in with your topo surface. And yeah, we can quickly add the the pipes in and calculate our drainage area as we go for those. And there we are. So we've got all of our drainage areas just showing up here. I've got my flow lengths, and I've got the slope of the from the most hydraulically remote point down to where we are actually adding the crossing in. So really easy to get that, really easy to visualize where the water is coming and going. So I can click my culverts. With that, it highlights the drainage area that we're dealing with. Some of these are small, some of these are big, but again, all about kind of making it easy to see what's going on. So I think putting it in location, calculating your drainage area is oh yeah, that's useful. What I have discovered I really like about this though is it's useful before you add your pipes in. So if I've got my road here, and this one doesn't have any culverts yet, now I'm gonna tell it that, okay, my road is merged in the surface. And I'm gonna go over to hydrology, and I'm gonna tell this thing to calculate my streams and ponds features. We'll hit okay. And it's gonna calculate where there would be ponding and where your streams would be. But since we don't have culverts yet, it's also showing us, well, the ponding against our road and giving us a pretty good visual aid at the click of a button on where we should put those pipes. So ponding, really important. The next thing that it's doing is it's using the same stream calculations that we have in Train. So we're also calculating streams that, well, exceed a threshold value. So we can see that, let's go back here. Right off the bat, we've got flow that the road's intercepting, and then it's getting pushed back along this. And in this case, we are going quite a ways until, well, this particular spot where we cross that saddle and the water's going that way. Similar here. We've got kind of a really small catchment area, but we're creating ponding, and then that water would go back along our road all the way back to here, where eventually it flows over, and again, we've got our ponding. So again, I really like this just for that visual aid of run it before you've added your pipes, and you can see where you're intercepting things. You can add your pipes in and run through, click add, and rerun the streams and ponds, see if you've missed anywhere, then see if you've got anywhere that you're robbing flow from a stream downslope, or anywhere that you're concentrating a lot of flow in your ditch. Preview of the hydrology tools and location for 12, and yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us for some extra time. We hope you really enjoyed today's presentation. As always, we know Matt goes quite quickly through some of that content. So this video is going to be up on YouTube. You can slow it down. You can rewind it. It will be there as a great resource. So thank you again. Hope you have enjoyed a wonderful break from webinars. We took a month off and we're back in action. Be sure to check out our full calendar heading into September, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.